This is the Watchman giving a clarion call. Folks, I just read a tragic story that I had to share here because it should give us all serious pause about our life choices. I hope it will encourage all of us to consider certain lessons and how we may yet apply those lessons to help those we love. This took place in China, where you'll recall a monstrous bubble was recently blown in many Chinese assets, particularly in equities. Their stock market, which has just caved a blistering 8.5%, has crashed and crashed hard, leading to crushing losses for millions of mom-and-pop investors, particularly for one farmer named Yang Cheng. This poor fellow not only invested his life savings of $160,000, but also convinced his entire family to invest their savings through him as well. Now, this man invested over $200,000 just days before the crash began. Now, yes, granted, his timing was awful, but that's not the worst part of the story. For this man was talked into borrowing over $1 million to buy equities on margin, ensuring that when the crash began in earnest, the margin calls truly wiped him out. He lost every penny belonging to both he and his family. It was his tearful response, though, that really struck a chord with me. Because when he realized the scale of wealth destruction he'd caused for his loved ones, this is all he could say, quote, "I don't know what to do. I trusted the government too much. I won't touch stocks again. I've ruined everyone in my family." End quote. You see, the reason why that statement should hit home with every single one of us is because folks in the U.S. have done exactly what this man has done and stand to lose their life's work the same way. But come on, Watchman. That foolish man bet everything he had on one stock and used margin to do it. I don't know anyone who's ever done that. Brother, I'm not talking about investment choices. I'm talking about the conscious decision to trust one's own future to government promises. Sure, you may not know anyone who's borrowed up to their eyeballs to dabble in stock bubbles, but you do know many people in your own life who've blindly trusted the state far too much for their futures and who should have known better. What do I mean? Well, for starters, how about the public pension system? Moody's, the rating agency, has just come out stating that due to faulty forward growth projection models for municipalities, there's currently a government pension shortfall of $2 trillion. $2 trillion. This will end in catastrophe. There are a whole lot of budgetary shortfalls ensuring that a whole lot of somebodies who paid into these insane systems will be left with nothing. There are millions of folks who dream of retirement who will never retire. Oh, and the exact same thing applies to Social Security in spades. There's no trust fund, no lockbox. That money's been gone for years, and the only thing keeping it somewhat functional right now are current tax receipts. The people are sleepwalking their way through life and choosing to believe their governments rather than what their own experience and common sense clearly tells them. Folks, the global economic crash is happening as we speak. The Shanghai index losses yesterday were eye-watering. And even though that index has now come down nearly a full 50%, it probably has another 15 to 20% to fall from even this level. Now, this man, Yang Cheng, trusted that his government had the power to backstop the equity market he was stepping into. But they didn't. Not even Beijing has that power. And that's a humbling thought, because they already committed a shocking $250 billion to purchase and prop up equities. $250 billion, mind you. And get this, they've got a credit line open to buy another $500 billion in equities, should that not be enough. And it won't be enough. It will never be enough. Beijing, with its towering pile of currency reserves, will likely burn through $750 billion just to slow the rate of their stock market's descent. What a legendary waste of assets. $750 billion. And to think, it can't possibly make a meaningful difference because this equity bubble was inflated through Beijing's encouraging its citizens to take on over $1.2 trillion worth of margin debt. Their tiny firewall of $750 billion is chicken feed. Now let's get real here. The chief lesson is that the economic laws and forces that God has made may be suspended for a time, but they cannot be negated. They cannot be nullified. They will reassert themselves in ferocious ways, and governments and banks are ultimately powerless to stop them. If Beijing, with the largest capital reserves you could imagine, cannot stem the tide, cannot seize the fall, cannot save the Shenzhen, Shanghai, or Hong Kong indices, with nearly limitless cash at their fingertips, what hope do you honestly think there is that the U.S. will avoid that same grisly fate in its overpriced equity markets? I ask you. And when those monstrous economic waves, true force of nature, cross the pond, what do you think will happen? It's going to be a madhouse. It's going to be a rush for the fire exits. It's going to mean that the already dashed hopes for the federal pension system, already $2 trillion in the hole, will be decapitated once and for all with one clean samurai slice. And while I'm at it, I'll tell you something else. The lame trick that U.S. authorities tried several weeks ago of shutting down the Dow Jones for nearly half a trading day to avoid the spillover from the Shanghai carnage, it doesn't even matter if they try playing that again. Because here's the truth. You can shut down individual stocks or even whole exchanges from trading. But sooner or later, you must reopen those stocks. You must reopen those exchanges. You must face the music. And when that happens, no one will like the tune that's being called. For that tune will be a funeral dirge for the misguided dreams of tens of millions of human beings who trusted the bankers, trusted their brokers, trusted their currencies, and who trusted their governments in the experimental Ponzi scheme known as retirement. The entire retirement apparatus was always a deadly scam, a complete illusion. The only ones who will prove fortunate enough to retire based on those models will be the first generation who cashed out of that system and who've now largely passed away. Funding these golden year lifestyles of our parents and grandparents by crudely collateralizing them with the work yet to be performed by younger generations is a scam. It is a scam. Now listen, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a better life. But channeling the hopes of 2 generations in the United States into the dream of retirement paid for by those not yet born will prove the most incredibly painful mistake of all. And don't tell me you're not a person of faith. Every man lives by faith. Faith is simply assent and trust. It is simply the foundational presupposition that your actions and aspirations are based upon. That's what faith is. You can't live your life without trust. So where's yours, brother? Where's your faith? What have you believed in? And what are you trusting and why? You better double and triple check it quick. Because I promise you, the hour is coming when the heart-wrenching line uttered by that humble farmer will be repeated far and wide, through hill and dale, by millions of disillusioned, dispossessed people. I don't know what to do. I trusted the government too much. It will be a humanitarian crisis, and it will hit you close to home. Think about your parents or grandparents. Could you afford to support them if you had to? Remember, their pension funds are Ponzi's. Their Social Security checks will either bounce hard or not buy what they need in a true currency crisis, which is coming sure as the sunrise. How will you cope if they come to you? What will you do? Because when the curtain finally falls on Bretton Woods 2, you will likely be the only safety net left to them. But I want to leave you with a word of hope right now. These are trying times, yes, but trying times reveal who men truly are. Heroes are born in such times, brother. I've done my best with this platform that God has given me to sound the alarm, to raise the awareness needed, to help as many as possible remove themselves from the fate of this Chinese farmer. And most every one of you listening to this right now have taken huge steps to empower yourselves, to take back your futures from craven, cowardly bankers and politicians. And that's incredible. And unbelievably today, on July 29th, 2015, there's still time left to reach others with this life-changing truth. Silver is $14. I'm laughing just saying that. A few $1,000s into silver now could mean all the difference for them, to pull many back from the ledge, to lift up your fellow man, and help empower him to change course. It's not too late. It's an enormous gift, this gift of more time, isn't it? And I hope that every one of you uses that gift, uses every moment of it, to help as many as you possibly can. This is the Watchman signing off. Stay vigilant and bring the fight to them.